With your community news update, I'm Jack Hudson. Today we will be talking about the 3rd Annual East Indiana Drug Prevention Summit. This summit is hosted by Intersect Incorporated and the Children's Bureau and will take place on September 18th at Madison Park Church in Anderson, Indiana. Multiple guest speakers will be present, and today we have some very special guests here to join us and discuss their experiences. Good afternoon, Mrs. Knight Wilkerson and Madison County Sheriff Scott Mellinger.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Is everyone doing well?
Yes.
So starting off, could you, Mrs. Knight, just tell us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis at Intersect?
Sure. So I am the executive director as well as the tobacco control coordinator. So I oversee staff, I write all the grants, I make sure all the reporting is in, and then I also have a work plan of my own, which is working on smoke-free air laws, smoke-free multi-unit housing, and promotion of our statewide quit line. But then the staff that I oversee, they also work on underage drinking initiatives, prescription drug abuse initiatives, and now we're working on marijuana prevention. And we actually host 3 different coalitions in the county. So we have one here in southern Madison County, and Bill Hutton and Judge Gasparovic are the chair and co-chair of that. And then we have one in Anderson, and then we have one in northern Madison County. So each area is a little bit different. One's kind of rural, one's urban, one's suburban, and they all kind of meet a different function.
Yeah. So seeing how widespread Intersect can be and seeing how many causes you reach out to, how many events do you guys help host to really involve the public in your goal?
Well, we hosted our first of the second drug summits last year. So this will be our second year and this county's 3rd year. And this year's been really great because we've been able to collaborate with a lot of different partners. We also usually hold 2 to 3 community conversations or World Cafe meetings where we invite public in and we have discussions on the issues. For instance, opioids is one of the issues right now, and I know Sheriff is working hard on that with the Mental Health Coalition and some other agencies that we partner with. So we host several of those things. We also host several youth events called Photo Voice.
With that being said, Mr. Mellinger, how are you involved with these events and with their goals at Intersect?
Well, we were fortunate several years ago to become involved with Intersect, and I just took office about 3.5 years ago, and it was really had to be brought up to speed in regard to everything they were involved with. But I attend the meetings, but we do a lot more than that. As a matter of fact, we're heavily involved with a program they have right now, which has an exhibit that the acronym is HIPS, H-I-P-S, Hidden in Plain Sight, which is a great initiative that the people from Intersect had gone to Florida to, I believe it was a summit or a conference in Florida, and they saw a county down there that was doing this, and the HIPS trailer teaches adults to get in the way of their children who might be misusing substances by just being aware of where certain things might be hidden. Yeah. In the home or in a bedroom, as well as just making adults more aware of the current drug trends. Both of those things are extremely important.
With that being said, seeing that you said you went down to a summit in Florida, can you tell us, Mrs. Knight, that where all Intersect spreads to around the U.S.?
Well, we actually are localized here in Madison County. However, our HIPS trailer, to our surprise, Sheriff's and I's both, we have been requested and toured in Seymour, Liberty, Connorsville. We're going to Columbus Thursday, and next Saturday we're going to be in Clinton County. We've been asked to go to Fort Wayne. So the trailer's really popular, and we're thrilled that that's popular. So that's how we've kind of expanded through the state. But we're pretty local in Madison County as far as our programs and services.
Yeah, and the HIPS trailer, it has gone all over the state, but quite frankly, countless number of exhibits here in Madison County. I mean, the trailer's been in Elwood, Alexandria,
Frankton.
several times in Anderson, Frankton, Pendleton.
It was at the Safety Fair at Anderson High School.
Yeah, several in Anderson. So, selfishly, I love it when local groups want the trailer there, but I know we're also willing to help out, other jurisdictions, and we sure have gotten around the state with
Yeah.
that.
With that being said, you guys have both been in Madison County for a long time, I would say. And what kinds of situations have you seen, and has this organization helped prevent, or you've seen an impact in the community?
Well, I don't know that I've seen direct impact in terms of some of the prevention and education, but I do know for a fact that Intersect has been a significant boost to adults becoming more aware. And as far as kids are concerned, I think one of the things that's impressed me the most is, and I always want to talk about this, the kids or adults for that matter who are in trouble seem to get a lot of attention,
Right.
from the media or from people like us. But there are so many good kids out there, great young people, mature kids who want to help. And I've seen through Intersect large numbers of students from across this county get involved in prevention and education efforts. And I was one of the co-founders of AIM.
Okay.
Back in 1984, I believe.
Showing your age
And
there.
I've got a lot of age to show. And from that day forward, I didn't know it until I got involved, but from that day forward, I have been convinced that teenagers listen to teenagers a lot more, I guess, intensely than they do adults. So when we can get kids involved in the prevention and education part as mentors or as presenters, and Intersect has done that, we're way ahead of the ball game when we can do that. So that's probably what I've been most impressed with.
Yeah, I've always thought that having a good guest speaker or somebody that's been through that situation really helps show the significance of the cause. What influenced you guys into this career path, whether it be as a sheriff or just working in prevention of these harmful things?
You go first.
Go ahead.
So when I was young, my father passed away with breast cancer. I was 7, and when I was 12, my mom passed away with lung cancer, and they both smoked. And my mom smoked menthol Alpines. I can still see them. She stored them in the refrigerator. And we didn't used to get that education 40 plus years ago, 30 years ago, not like youth know today about tobacco and the causes. So I was even an advocate back then. I knew it wasn't right that I should be sick all the time, and I was always in the doctor's office, and I was always on that Pinkomoxil.
Yeah.
And so my mom quit the year before she was diagnosed, and she died at 51. So I started working in tobacco prevention even in my high school days. I did my senior project on lung cancer. I volunteered at hospice when I was in college. I worked for the American Cancer Society when I got out of college, and then I volunteered for them for several years. And then I worked in a prevention center in Kentucky before I came up here to do tobacco prevention. So with that, and then I had a sister that was addicted to methamphetamines, and then I lost a cousin 3 years ago of an overdose of pain medication. So it's definitely touched my family personally, and I've always just been in prevention work. I have a passion for it that sometimes gets me in trouble, but that's where it lies. That's why I do what I do.
I'm so sorry to hear about your family.
That's okay, because everything happens, and I think that directed me into my field. So,
Mr. Rellinger, you?
I got excited about this question the moment I saw it because, like most people, I had 2 wonderful parents, absolutely wonderful parents, and obviously they molded me, for better or worse, I guess. But I had 2 teachers here at Pendleton Heights. I graduated from here. Take a seat now. In 1974, So for those mature listeners out there, I hope you'll get a kick out of this. Randy Steele and Dennis Wallace, two teachers that I had that had a profound impact on me. And the interesting thing is that I was quite the rascal in terms of I did not have the best lifestyle as a teenager. I just didn't. We won't go into that. But they instilled in me for the 2 to 3 years that I had them as teachers or I was around them a lot. We actually became pretty good friends. They instilled in me a deep desire to be in public service, both of those two teachers. And, I'll remember them for the rest of my life. Randy isn't with us anymore. Mr. Wallace is, but those are two people that I'm proud to say definitely steered me towards public service.
Yeah. Well, it's always great to hear about role models like that affect you when you're younger and really shape how you are today. On that note, I'm sure, do both of you have children?
Yes.
Sure do.
Do your kids really help you want to help prevent these things happening in the society that are harming people? Is that a big influence for you guys?
Mine is absolutely. So I have a 5th grader and a kindergartner at LaPel Elementary. So even in this position and knowing what I know, I wasn't expecting to have these kind of conversations with them so early. But you have to remember that even though it may not be talk in your home, it's talk in someone's home.
Yeah.
And they talk about that when they get to school. And then kids come home with questions because little Johnny asked or said XYZ. So I had to really sit down and have conversations about drug use and what certain things were and music lyrics before I thought I was going to have to. So with my daughter, it was like 2nd or 3rd grade. And my son is much more inquisitive than she was at kindergarten. So I anticipate with school year starting, he'll be coming home with questions too. So it's very important, and I obviously learn a lot from them and their friends.
Yeah.
And I probably learn more from them than I do from my conferences or my trainings, because those were the youth.
See what's happening in the
Those
community.
are what we're talking about. What was on the bus today, or what happened in the cafeteria, or what were the kids talking about. I can guarantee you that's what's going on around the county. So, yes, they absolutely influence my decisions.
Mr. Mellinger, and you?
Well, I have 3 children. They are all Pendleton Heights graduates as well. My oldest daughter is 33. I have a 28-year-old daughter and a 25-year-old son. So yes, they influence my desire to go to work every day and to continue to try and make a difference. And I also have 2 grandchildren now. One is a 1st grader at Pendleton Elementary, and the other is 3 years old, going on 28. She is an absolute pill. But, in law enforcement, you kind of see the darker side much more frequently in terms of what drugs and alcohol and tobacco and things do to people.
Yeah.
We're the enforcement part. And so a lot of times we have to grow a little bit calloused. We get frustrated because we see sometimes the same people over and over getting in trouble and not taking care of themselves, not taking control of their lives. So I these days I look at it from the safety side. I not only have 3 adult children, but I have 2 grandchildren that live in this community now, and I want this community to be a healthy community, number one.
Yeah.
And then to be a safe community. So it's kind of selfish, I guess, when I get frustrated and think, what am I doing here? I'm seeing the same revolving door with criminal activity. All I have to do is think of my kids and my grandkids, and
Yeah.
it brings me right around to where I should be, in that I'm in a position to try and make a difference and to keep things as good as they are here in Madison County now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're struggling with some drug abuse issues and that kind of thing, like a lot of places, but I still, like the people from Intersect, I still get to be involved in things that make a positive difference, and that's what I think about most often.
With that being said, was it always your goal to become sheriff?
No. No, not at all. My dad was a plastering contractor, and I thought for many years, because I worked for him every summer, I thought I would probably take over the plastering business. I was influenced by those two teachers I mentioned, Mr. Steele and Mr. Wallace, and so by my senior year, I started thinking about public service. But I still saw that I could go to work, and even though it's hard work, get out there and make some money and have the things I wanted to have. I actually did not go straight to college. I worked for my dad for a full year. He wanted me to actually learn the skills of a plasterer, which I did to a certain degree. But after working real hard and seeing the lives of some of the people who were in the same line of work he was, I asked my parents towards the end of that first year, I said, is this college thing still on the table? And they said, absolutely. So I did get a degree in criminal justice and then went into law enforcement. And I've been extremely blessed all these years.
Yeah.
But I never thought about getting into the political side.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just, I just kept making strides in leadership areas that was the next step for me.
Yeah. With that being said, with both of you, how have the community helped embrace Intersect and embrace the Children's Bureau and really helped you guys thrive and do your job to the best of your ability?
Well, I think Sheriff alluded to this earlier, but what I didn't say is Intersect also oversees all of the SAD programs in the high schools.
Okay.
So we started all of the SAD groups actually. When I got here 16 years ago, we didn't have any sort of substance use prevention programs. Now that may have been the case before that, but they had somehow not followed through. So the SAD programs, those youth have been extremely effective in reaching community members that we as adults have not necessarily been able to get to hear us.
Yeah.
We actually have trained thousands of high school youth in the last 16 years. And Pendleton has always had a strong SAD group. And many of the youth among the years have I've taken them to the State House to talk to lawmakers. I've taken them to the town council to talk about policy change. We've went to the school board, and every school that has smoke-free grounds was passed because of the students. They asked the school board to pass that.
Right.
Not us. We worked with the students. They're the ones that took that initiative on. So in that regard, I think they see us as positive role models for the youth and encouraging them to have a voice when a lot of youth do not think they have a voice or not used to asking people for their opinion, right? So so that's one way. And then with the summit, Jama's not with us, but she's the director of the Children's Bureau, and they jumped right on board to co-present with us because, sadly, many youth are in foster care, then they have foster care parents.
Yeah.
And a large majority of those youth are in foster care due to drug use. Like, the parents were using drugs, so the kids were taken from families. So it's a really big issue. And I think when people hear drug prevention, they think, my kids don't use and I don't need any part of that. But they really do. It takes the whole community. So we work on policy, and we work on things like the HIPS trailer, and we work with our law enforcement on. So Pendleton is one of two communities in the whole state. The other one is also in Madison County that has a local social host ordinance. And Chief Farr and the police officers here helped get that passed with youth that were in SAD at that time. And that just holds people fiscally responsible. So if they break up a party and there's a parent there that had provided the liquor, they immediately get a ticket. It's not just criminal, it's fiscal. They get a fiscal ticket. And that was through a partnership of people who said, yes, it's an issue, and we're going to work on it. And
I think that's a very, very big deterrent from doing things like that.
So we're actually working on some things here right now on looking at what the convenience stores are portraying in advertising and items.
Yeah.
And working with youth in the coalition here on what can we do so that our youth aren't inundated with those items and ads that are focusing on several different drugs. So so because of our policy work and because of our work with the HIPS trailer and because of our work with SAD, I think people can kind of identify with that and with what we do. Our board is we've got great board members that do a good job of talking about what we do. We work with all of our schools, and we have a good partnership with them. We have a good partnership with our hospitals and all of our police departments. The sheriff's is great too, but we also have permanent drug drops in all of the police departments that we worked with the police departments on having. So if you have unused medication,
Gotcha.
take them to the thing. So I think all of that in combination, and with JAMA and the Children's Bureau on board, it just brought their set of supporters to the table as well, and it just kind of made it a bigger community to work for planning the drug summit.
And you brought up the summit once again, and can you just tell the people that are interested in maybe going and participating what they'll expect from being there?
Sure. So we still are selling tickets to the summit. It is still $35. I don't know if the early, I know the early bird is passed, but they can go to intersectinc.org, and then there's a registration link on there. We're not doing separate workshops, so it'll be one full day of conferences and presentations
Gotcha.
that everyone will get. And again, this is because my staff attended conferences somewhere else, and we were able to bring, I saw you were going to ask about the speakers.
Yeah.
Bring in those speakers, those national speakers.
You guys have some very well-known speakers,
right.
too.
Some infamous speakers in
Yes.
research and data. So we've actually already had like 150 people buy tickets.
Okay.
And then we have Children's Bureau that are going to be bringing another 60 or 70. So we're excited about that. They are going to be hearing some fantastic speakers, and it's things that you really need to hear to understand a community effort. It's not just a program. It's not just the youth. It's not just a policy change. It's kind of a collaboration among all of them to make a positive change in the community. It's not just, let's make it harder for the doctors to write a prescription and then they won't be on opioids anymore, or let's change this, It
takes more than one man to break down a wall.
Right. So with the collaboration of all of that together, we hope these speakers will give that message in a clear way that people understand. And we're also doing a second day where one of our speakers, Carlton Hall, who used to work for the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, which is a national organization that hires a lobbyist to work on Capitol Hill. So anytime we have those federal funds for drug abuse, those lobbyists are the ones that do that through CADCA. He left CADCA and he's on his own, but he's fabulous. And he's going to hold a workshop the next day from 9 to 1 for anyone in this community or in the counties, East Central Indiana counties, for free on talking about coalitions.
And that will be on September 19th for our listeners.
Yes, the next day.
Mr. Mellinger, how does your role as sheriff help come into play on summits like these?
Well, at the planning meetings, for instance, because I've had the good fortune not only to work in local law enforcement but state law enforcement as well. I think I've been able to provide some resources or referrals in terms of ideas or speakers. We have a local problem. There's no question about that. Madison County ranks way too high in all of the areas that we worry about. Opioid use, overdoses that cause death,
Yeah.
Suicides, we don't have a very positive ranking there. So it's important to me, and this is what I tried to get across to the committee, was it's important to me that we not only have nationally known speakers, but we also need some local speakers, because it's one
Right.
thing to realize what's going on nationally, and we need to know what's going on nationally, because that is somewhat reflective of where we rank. But having local speakers as well to tell the attendees exactly what's happening here in Madison County, I think is probably the best blend of information that you can get. So that's one of the things that I promoted. It's kind of unheard of that Intersect is able to get the national speakers that they get, but those speakers aren't cheap. So Intersect does great work in getting grant funding and getting sponsors.
Yeah.
Not many organizations can pull that off, and they do that very well. But we also have some phenomenal talent here locally. Judge Angela Sims is actually going to be one of the speakers. She is a Pendleton resident, and she is the judge that oversees drug court, which is where many of the offenders who are charged with illegal drug use attend. And she's tough. She's not. She does not treat these offenders with kid gloves, but she has a program that is very difficult for them to get through and graduate, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But she's having some tremendous results. But I just think being on the law enforcement side of things, I think that I'm just one piece of many that make the committee's work and the planning for these summits come off as being very effective for the community.
Gotcha. Thank you. Talking about the summits, what kind of demographics do you guys help to reach to at your summits, at your events, at your hip trailer campaigns, all of those things? What kind of demographics do you try to reach to and are most common?
Well, I'll tell you, again, I'm going to put a plug in for JAMA and Children's Bureau. It was very important for her to keep the registration low to below $50, because she wanted just anybody to be able to join, whether it was a parent or Children's Bureau is actually sponsoring several mini spots for Department of Children's Service workers, so that they can actually come and get that education, because they're the ones that are on the forefront. They're the ones that are going into the homes and talking with the police officers and caseworkers and judges. So she wants them to be educated on this. And law enforcement would be great. I think Sheriff's great about having his deputies come to trainings. We've also had Billy Ingalls. He went to Florida, and he's the chief of police in Chesterfield.
Gotcha.
For a summit. I know some of our smaller police officers only have a couple of officers on staff, but if they can manage it, I suggest they send a couple. I know some of the schools, including Pendleton, is sending their emergency response teams. Is that what they're referred to, Sheriff? Or
Honestly, I'm not sure.
It's their teams that are specially trained for crisis emergency. So we were told by some of the schools that would be a great group to send to the summit. So I know Pendleton's got
The EMT program?
No, it's
Okay.
it's a group of like guidance counselors and maybe a teacher
okay.
or two, but it's people that are trained. So if there is an emergency, those people are kind of the ones that
Gotcha.
know what to do.
They would be the ones to kind of guide everyone
Right.
else through a very
Okay.
critical situation.
Yeah, so really it's just anyone. We've got some treatment people that are going to be on board, and actually, as Sheriff was talking about with Judge Sims, who actually sits on our board of directors, we're also having a recovery, how do they call that? Recovery panel with Brian Shields and Chris Lannon, who do drug court and Celebrate Recovery, and they're doing a panel during lunch of local people that have gone through the recovery, what made them start, why did they start, what helped them, why did they want to quit. So he's right, we do have a mixture of local and national trainers, and sometimes business owners don't think they need it, but more and more of our businesses are having trouble hiring people because they can't pass the drug test.
Yeah.
So our employers need to be more involved as well. I don't know if Sheriff has any other thoughts on that, but really it's a widespread audience.
Yeah, I have a hard time picking one age demographic, to be honest with you, because the general public, I don't think, is aware of how bad the drug abuse problem is here in Madison County, just quite frankly.
Yeah.
And whether you're a senior citizen of my age, or you're in that 50 down to 30 age bracket, or 18 to 29, it's important for everybody to know what's going on in the community, because even though it might not have invaded your household or your immediate family, it is affecting you one way or another, be it paying more for emergency room visits, because there's a lot of people that go to emergency rooms that can't pay, so then you and I pay more, or be it law enforcement, fire, or EMS response to your own home. If those first responders are tied up on overdose calls somewhere, because those types of calls have multiplied by many times over the last few years. I could go on and on about the different ways that drug abuse affects everybody. So when someone says, they just don't think it's important for them to be involved, I try not to be rude and try to bite my tongue, but this is something that's affecting us all. So I have a hard time picking one demographic being more important than the other.
Would you say you've seen progress over the past several years, though?
Well, I've seen some the last 3 or 4 years. Not enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I know people are busy. They have their regular lives. They have their work lives. They have, kids that they're raising many times. But I think people are finally starting to understand how serious the problem is. I don't think that enough people are ready to jump in and participate in finding the solution or being a part of the solution. A lot of the things that we know are best practices, we either can't afford them, or we don't have enough human resources to really develop programs to work towards the solution. And right now, human resources is where we're very, very short. You can throw money at a problem all day long. If you can get government to come up with the money, throw it at you can do that all day long. But until you get the general public involved on a regular basis, hands-on, we're going to have a difficult time, getting to the place where we feel like we're over the hump.
Yeah. With that being said, you said getting the general public involved is super important. How can they get involved? Because for a lot of people, that's an issue.
Well, they can get involved by volunteering. There's so many volunteer opportunities out there. Intersect, I know, would be happy to have more volunteers. I am working really closely with the Christian Center and with the Madison County Coalition on Mental Illness and Addictions. We know of a lot of programs that are working elsewhere. We're trying to get those programs developed here, and those programs just need people. They need volunteers to help ex-offenders with transportation, to and from the doctor, to and from work. And it's real easy for us to say, hey, those offenders, even though they're not incarcerated anymore, they are adults and they should be able to take care of themselves. But once you have dug a hole that deep for yourself, you need help getting out of it.
Right.
And if you've made your mind up that you're going to stay positive and continue to work towards the solution, there's nothing wrong with getting a little help from volunteers.
Yeah.
Even at the jail, we need volunteers. We have some programs that have already been implemented or that we're getting ready to implement at the jail. We need volunteers for that. And you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have a certificate. Sometimes we just need people to help us monitor programs for security reasons. So there are many ways that people can volunteer. I think if someone was really interested and didn't know which way they wanted to go, I think I would have them contact United Way, to be honest with you. United Way of Madison County has a pretty good handle on all of the variety of programs available. But don't hesitate to call your sheriff. Don't hesitate to call Intersect, because we'll guide you in a way that hopefully you will not only be a positive impact, but you might actually enjoy it a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, before we end, do you have any notes or comments for the public?
Do you have
You
any?
said- go ahead.
We said to contact us, so you can always go to our website again. That's www.intersect, intersectinc.org. We're also on Facebook. And Sheriff, do you have a?
Well, we have a Facebook page, Sheriff of Madison County. We also have a website, www.sheriffofmadisoncounty.com. There are ways you can contact us on either one of those pages, or you can call our records office, which is kind of our repository for general calls. That is 765-646-9290.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. Don't forget, the 3rd Annual East Indiana Drug Prevention Summit will be hosted on September 18th at Madison Park Church. Tickets are $35. We hope we can see you there. Thank you guys again so much. I'm Jack Hudson. Until next time.